how to use panning in your songs, in your song productions. If you've definitely heard of panning, I'm sure, but how do you actually put it into practice and to make your song sound more professional and more wide? We're going to go through a song example that I've done using panning, of course, and it's not a finished mix, but we'll go through how the principles and fundamentals that how you should think about panning and how you can recreate it in your own tracks. There is a production template I have in the description you can download for free. This is what I use for mostly every single project I work on. There's no hard and fast rules with panning. There are solid fundamentals that are used, especially in pop music. Just like anything in music, there's no rules really, but there are things that will sound good and things you should probably do. Here's a good image that I want to reference in this video. Think of like the song as an actual live performance in a way. And if I'm watching this band, how are the instruments laid out, on stage? If you go do the orchestra or whatever, not everyone is just sitting behind each other against the conductor, right? Everyone is laid out in this kind of half moon circle here, and it's on purpose. Everything is laid out on purpose to have a proper mix for an orchestra. So you can kind of think of it like that too, if that helps. Coming to that, there are fundamentals where you place certain elements. This is a good image because Vox, which stands for vocal, the snare, the bass, and the kick, usually and most of the time are always in the middle. So if a vocal up here, you'd have it at 0. You want it right at the middle. On the snare track, you would have it, let's go to our snaps, snares, this type of thing, you would have it in the middle. Same things for bass and kick. We have our kick here up the middle and our bass up the middle. I like to think of different elements in the drum set, like hats, percussion. These can be panned left or right, depending on where you want to place them. In this image, it says put it off to the left. That's because typically, on a drum set, the hats are on the left side of the snare. I have a triangle panned off to the right. I have a chime here panned off to the left a bit. My toms are panned off to the right because usually, you might have a low tom on the side of a drum set. That's how you can kind of think about drums. Feel free to subscribe. I'm Charles Killeen, a singer-songwriter and producer, and I'm just doing the same things you guys are doing, just passing information along. Bass up the middle for sure. Piano and guitars, I usually pan to the right or the left. It doesn't really matter. I change it between, song to song. So for example, I have a piano in this song. I put it 19 to the right. You can go further if you want. You're going to have to play with where you want to pan things when you're starting to, in that production phase, but also more in the mixing phase to where you actually want to place it in the mix. If you just had it in the middle, the piano is really going to fight with the vocal. There's a lot of frequencies in the piano that can fight with your vocal. So you have to put it off to the side. This is literally like taking the piano and pushing it to the side. And that's going to take those frequencies that were in the middle and put it on the side so it's not fighting with the vocal as much. There's still going to be overlap there and stuff. There will always be, but it will fight less. I put my synth off to the right a bit. I put my synth pluck off to the left. I put my piano more to the right here. The Rhodes off to the left. A sweep. In the beginning, I have a sweep here where I hard pan this Rhodes, and I believe I balanced it with a hard pan right with a vocal sweep here. So when you do hard pan something, it's oftentimes you don't have to have the balance on the other side, but sometimes you might need that balance because it might just be too many things happening, especially if it's like an important part. You might want to balance it on the left side or the right side. Harmonies are something else, and background vocals, this is something else where you're definitely going to want to pan and not really have harmonies in the middle unless it's like a double vocal. Maybe you might put that in the middle, but you can also double vocals twice and have those pan to create more width for your lead vocal. I'm going to open up another project and show you an example of what I mean by that. So here I actually opened up the Billie Eilish song, the stems of her song Ocean Eyes, and I thought this was a great example to use to give you an idea of pan in these vocal textures here. So you can see there's a big stack. We have 12 track stack, and everything is panned hard to the left or hard to the right, or at about 43 on each side. Each 4 tracks here, these are the same tone of vocal. One is hard pan left, one is hard pan right, and one is just brought up a bit and on the left, one brought up a bit on the right. That creates a big width for your stereo image. So vocal harmonies are never really behind the actual lead vocal. But what I was mentioning if you do have a lead vocal, For example, this is a lead stack here. You might have, lead vocal definitely like we're saying up the middle, but then we have these doubles, 130 left, 130 right, and then another two doubles, 130 left, and 130 right, hugging the lead vocal on the side. Something I just noticed in this song is a lot of things are up the middle, right? Like this dark pad, this custom piano, this thing, these are hard panned, and then we have the drums. So drums we want up the middle, vocals up the middle, but these things are all up the middle, right? So you might be saying like, is that a good thing? Well, this is like the bass is up the middle. These things here, because they're in different frequencies, even though they're up the middle, they're not going to be fighting with each other. So that's something you can think about too. When you have something in the same space in your image, your stereo image, you can ask yourself, are they in the same frequency? For example, if you have a pad that's really in the 500 hertz area and you have a piano and those are both in the middle, then those frequencies are going to be fighting. So you might consider panning one to the right and one to the left. But this, for example, this custom piano isn't going to fight with these two instruments anyways, not only because they're in different frequencies, but the actual rhythm of the playing isn't as frequent as the custom piano. So it's frequency range, but also the rhythm of playing. So you can also have something panned to the left or panned in the same position, but if it's not playing as much as the same time, then you're fine, because those frequencies won't be fighting that much because they're not happening all at the same time. So to recap, fundamentals: kick, snare, bass, vocals, all up the middle, and then everything else you can kind of decide where you want to put them, but definitely use the whole stereo image, and those frequencies that are really fighting, separate them. That's how I like to think about panning. Again, there's no rules in music. Feel free to subscribe, guys. If you're new here, check out that free download template.